Welcome, 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 welcome. This is the brush room. My name's Erin. I'm your instructor. I'm so happy to be here. I have a couple things to talk about this week. Today we are doing squares and rectangles. This is a recap. This is what we did on our last drawing session. We worked with circles and cylinders and made this pretty birthday cake. The first thing that I want to talk about before we even start is mindset. And the reason I want to talk about mindset is because I historically have been very hard on myself. And something that I used to do all the time is if I missed a day or I messed something up, I just would quit altogether and abandon what I was working on, only to come back to it later and have to work twice as hard to remember and, all the things. And the reason I bring that up is because this week for recording, it has been a challenging week for me. And typically, old Erin would have just been like, well, I screwed that up, time to move on to something else. And I'm not going to do that anymore. And I really hope that you guys don't do that either, because that is even more defeating than if you just pick up the pieces and start again as quickly as you can. And I am learning that slowly but surely. I don't know if any of you have ever gone on a diet. This is very typical in the first couple weeks of January. Starting a diet, by week 2, you're like, you know what, I screwed up. I'm just not even going to start. I'm just going to give it all up. And I think that can be true for anything in our life. So that's my 2 cents. Do with it what you will. Take what you like, leave the rest. But keep coming back. Keep coming back. Keep coming back. Keep coming back. Keep saying yes to the things that foster your growth, help your mental health, help you feel better, give you some rest, all of those things, right? And I am saying this more for myself than for you guys, but I just wanted to record that sentiment for posterity reasons. So if I quit or give up, then you guys have every right to come back at me and say, Erin, remember when you recorded this? But we're not going to do that. We are not going to do that. All right, let's work on some squares and rectangles. Now, the videos this week are going to be shorter. The ones at the end of the week are going to be a little bit longer. This week, they're going to be a little shorter. The beginning of the week is going to be shorter because we're just doing, like, today we're doing rectangles and squares. Tomorrow we're doing triangles and cones. And the day after that, we're going to put it all together. And then we're going to start some actual factual objects, and I'm going to give you some quick tips on those. So you can expect the drawing lessons to be 15 minutes or less, and that is even with me rambling on for 3 minutes right now. So let's get to it. We want to remember what foreshortening is. It means that your the object is distorted a little bit because you're looking at it from a side. So if we're looking at a square, it looks like this, right? But if we want to look at it from a side and draw something where that is stacked like this cake, then we're going to have to distort the square so we can see only we will recognize that it's a square, but it's going to be a 3D object, right? So like if we did this here, and then I did some foreshortening by putting these dots here and backing it up like this and going like this, now we have a laptop, right? And then you're going to want to foreshorten the corners and go back. Okay, that's a little bit of perspective for you, but just so that's the idea of foreshortening. So here's the easiest way to create a stack of boxes. You're going to make a diamond shape out of these dots. Can you see that? Should I reduce the height? I don't think I can zoom in. I cannot. So let me bring the height down a little bit on this bar. Hold on, I gotta rearrange a few things. I should have thought of this before I started, but you guys will bear with me. There. That'll be easier for you to see. Okay, so you see those 4 dots in the shape of a diamond, and then when you attach all the lines, we still have a square if we look at it like that, right? But it's foreshortened, because now when we do a line down on each of these and connect them, now we have a box. And when we know how to make a box like this, we can make all sorts of things. Okay? We can now put some dots up here. And now we have an open box, especially if we do that and color this in. So this week, I want you to start playing with points on all of our shapes, because then you can create anything. Once you can see the shape in an object, you can start to visualize how it's to be drawn, whether that's an animal or a seascape or a landscape or what have you. You can start to see how it's supposed to be drawn. Okay, so let's practice a TV. So we're going to start with our outline here. And then we're going to bring these down here and put these dots in. Try and make them straight. And then we're going to follow this outline here. This is kind of crooked. We'll bring that down farther. And then we're going to have a rounded shape and another rounded shape. I'm going to make this a little bigger. And we have an old-fashioned TV console all of a sudden. Put a few knobs down the side. Did anyone have a TV like that? We did. We did growing up. It was big. It took up like half the wall. It was huge. And most of the time the knobs were down here. Okay? How about a microwave? Let's do it again. Now I want you to make your diamond really wide, because this is more like a rectangle. Microwaves are more like a rectangle, right? Not a square. When you're drawing, you're going to want to use really light lines, because when you go over it with the ink pen or something else, that'll darken it. But when you first start, I want you to get used to using really light lines. There's always a vent on top of the microwave, right? Right about here. And then we always have this open screen area. And then we have this panel of numbers over here. Now, we want the numbers, we don't want to write the numbers like this, a straight line. We want it to match. We want the buttons to match the layout of how we're drawing this way. And all of a sudden we have a microwave. And in the microwave is a turntable. You can imagine that in there. And you would do that by this, it's going to be cut off by the view here. But remember, we put in our dots to foreshorten that. And all of a sudden we have a microwave. Let's talk about shading on these squares and rectangles. It's the same concept. So let's draw a table. So we're going to have a table. So the table starts off square. This went the wrong way. And then we're going to have 3 points down here, right? We're going to connect all of that. And then we want the table leg to match up here. So we're going to do another line down here. And then the table leg is going to kind of be halfway in here and halfway in here. You can make that leg or pedestal as short or tall as you want. This is kind of kittywampus. I didn't get this line exactly right, but you can see the idea there. That's better. So now we have kind of a table-like structure. It's a little kittywampus because this needs to come down. You get the drill. I'm doing this really quickly, so I'm not being very careful. But you get the drill, and we're going to continue to draw these because I'm going to have us make a city. And then let's pretend that there's a little hole here. And we can see a little face in there. What do you think? And their little paw is reaching out, saying, "Hey, how you doing?" Or it's trying to get out. Ooh, I kind of made it like he was flipping us off, didn't he? Oh well. Ha! Anyway, that's kind of fun, right? You can have all sorts of fun like that. So now we know how to do the squares and the triangles. How do we shade something like this? So we have the light coming down this way, right? Which means it's going to be really dark under here and really dark under here because the tabletop is casting a shadow. And then it's probably going to be lighter on the end and then darker as we come this way. Same here. But this is going to be lighter than this value. Okay, do you see that? Let's try that again. I just lost my pencil. I'll get a different one. We'll get my favorite one, which is this one. I got to sharpen it. Here we go. Okay, so let's try this again. Let's do a little table. I'm going to be more careful this time. And we are at 13 minutes and 37 seconds, so we're going to be almost done. What I want you guys to practice is stacking tables upon tables and making a little city for a little tiny bug like that guy. Practice stacking boxes, tables, circles. Okay? So now we're gonna make a wider base. And you want to follow the same line. So if you need to turn your paper so you can follow the same line, by all means do so. Just like this. And draw a really light line. There, that's a better box, isn't it? Now I'm going to have the light coming from this way, which means my darkest point is going to be on this side. So I'm just going to shade this side. And I want this to be super dark underneath. And then we're going to lighten up as we go down. because we still need a shadow, and then it's going to cast a shadow this way. So we need this shadow too, don't we? And then this is going to be also shadowed up. But there's this, now this creates some depth and dimension, doesn't it? That we have this part darker. We can tell that there's a lid on top of this box. And look at how much more depth is on this side than on this side. This side still looks a little flat. If you wanted to correct that, you would just put some shadow right here. Not as dark as this, because we have the light coming this way, but still darker. And then you would shade even lighter. And this back corner would be the darkest. Now you truly have a 3D box, don't you? So what if we wanted to put another box? Ignore this. What if we wanted another box up here? This is why we would draw light, because we'd want to start up here and we'd go straight up, straight up, straight up, straight up. Down a little bit, down a little bit, down a little bit. Straight up. See what we have here? And then we'd have to come across the bottom. And then we would erase this line and erase this line. And all of a sudden we have another box. And we would do the same thing, as we would shade pretty darkly here and then come down. But now, because this box is sitting on top of this box, we gotta shade this part now too. Right? Because this box is shadowing, casting a shadow over the bottom box. We can even put a little bit of a shadow right back here. And then we can bring this floor shadow out to show two boxes. So there you have it. I went a little over 18 minutes and 19 minutes. But anyway, practice stacking boxes and making different size pedestals, different size box tops, different widths and heights of different rectangles. Try putting them together to make common shapes that you might have. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow.